Hello everyone, my name is Emily and today I'm sharing with you all of the books that I read in the month of January. So January was a bit of a weird reading month for me. There were times when I was reading a ton and getting through quite a bit, and there were other times where I was kind of in a slump, wasn't really finding things that spoke to me, and I started a lot of books that I didn't finish. Jury's still out on if they're going to be real DNFs or not. I ended up actually finishing 5 books in the month of January, and some of these I had conflicting feelings about. Now, to be clear, all of these are books that I liked. I'm pretty consistent about DNFing any books that I'm not enjoying. So I did like all of these books, but each one of them, well, not all of them, but some of them have something about them that just didn't quite work for me. I consider it to be personal preference though. With most of these, it's not, I don't feel like it's objectively that this issue that I had with it is bad. It's just, it didn't work for me for whatever reason. So putting that out there just to say, you might be the perfect reader for this book. Maybe you would absolutely love it. There's just things that maybe didn't work for me, but I don't necessarily wish the author had done it differently, if that makes sense. With that being said, let's get into the video. The first book that I read is actually probably the one I feel the least conflicted about. I really loved it, and that is How to Winter by Carrie Leibowitz. This is a book I've been looking forward to for a very long time. It is what it says, you know, what it says on the tin. How to Winter, harness your mindset to thrive on cold, dark, or difficult days. I don't read a lot of nonfiction anymore that is not heavily research based, unless it's memoir. And I really appreciated all of the research and science that went into this book. She's been studying this for years, and that really comes through in this book. I just moved pretty recently, just a couple of years ago, to a colder climate where we experience quite a bit of winter. I've been seeing a lot of snow on the ground this winter. So I've been really wanting to improve my relationship with winter. Now, to be clear, I've always loved winter. I grew up somewhere that did not have a lot of winter. I haven't lived in a lot of places that experience very cold winters. So this is pretty new for me, and I do love it. I'm finding it very exciting to live in a place like this. But I also know that that might just be the novelty of it. And I want to start some practices that will help me love winter for many years to come. And I think this book had some really great ideas. One thing that I really loved about it is that it really applies to all people who experience winter. So you don't have to have inches and inches of snow every year in order to get something out of this. It doesn't only apply to people who have the coldest or the darkest winters. If you have any sort of winter, then this book can help you. So if you have just more darkness, or you have a lot of rain, or whatever the case may be, she covers all that, and I think these are really great actionable suggestions, and I've already started putting some of them into practice, and I think that they've been really helping me to really embrace winter this year. The next book I've been trying to collect my feelings on ever since I finished it. So hopefully I can be eloquent enough today to express myself, but the book is The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. This is historical fantasy about the Knights of King Arthur. So the main character, he wants to join the Knights of the Round Table. And so he does all of this. He puts in a great effort to get to the Round Table, only to discover that King Arthur has just died, and a lot of the, most famous, most powerful knights have also died. And so the remaining knights are sort of trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what they're going to do. How are they going to save the kingdom and move forward from this? The first 2/3 or so of this book, I absolutely loved. I loved the writing. I loved the characters. It felt like what I always wanted historical fantasy to be. It's pretty character driven. I think it has a good balance between plot driven and character driven. The characters are really interesting. It's not too romance focused. Really not romance focused at all. There's very little romance in it. And most importantly, I think, is that the fantasy element is really focused on the actual legends and folklore and myths of ancient Britain. It felt very true to the culture of the time period that it was set in, even though it very much is like real magic, if that makes sense. So that's something I really appreciated. I felt like while I was reading it, I was learning about the folklore of ancient Britain at the same time. It didn't feel like just straight up fantasy. So for the first 2/3 of this book, I was just loving it. I was like, this is exactly the kind of book I've always wanted to find. It's so great. And I still stand by that. I feel like it is good. Toward that 2/3 mark, I was starting to think, how is this going to end in a way that feels historically accurate and also satisfying? How are these themes that have come up going to wrap up? There is a very big religious theme, and I was wondering how that was going to wrap up, and I wasn't really sure how the author was going to pull it off, and I was really hoping that he would pull it off in a way that felt satisfying, not necessarily happy. I'm not a reader, I don't think, where I expect or hope for a happy ending in every single book. I was fine if the ending was not happy, but I was hoping it would be satisfying. Without giving anything away, I just didn't feel that the ending was satisfying for me. To me, the ending was kind of a big nothing. That was kind of disappointing. I was like, I just wanted to give me something. I just wanted to give me some sort of emotion or something, but it just felt like everyone was just like, well, adventure over, life moves on, that's the end. And there was just nothing happening. There was just nothing of interest. It just kind of all died. As much as I did love a great deal of the book, the majority of the book, I have conflicting feelings on it, and that's that. Next is The Love Elixir of Augusta Stern by Linda Cohen Loigman. This book proved that I can, in fact, enjoy a romance every once in a while if it's done to my taste. I didn't realize quite that it was a romance when I got into it, but definitely I would consider it to be a romance, but I actually really liked it. And I think it's because it had the right tropes and none of the wrong ones. I didn't think it was super tropey, if you will. The main tropes, I would say, were miscommunication and second chance romance. I know that the miscommunication trope is kind of an unpopular one, it seems. I don't know. For me though, I actually find it very realistic and I appreciate it because I think in life it is very hard to communicate your real feelings. And sometimes I've seen people say about these books like, oh, that would just never happen. Like adults should be able to say what they think. It's so annoying. I'm like, yeah, I mean, adults should be able to say what they think and feel, but do we? One of my main gripes with romance is often that it just feels so unrealistic. And something I really do not like in romance is when the male main character, the love interest, is just so perfect and just unrealistically perfect. It drives me up the wall when they always say the right things and they're so attractive and they always do everything right and they love the female main character even though she hates them or something. Like often this just drives me crazy. And I actually really liked the male main character in this book. When I was reading reviews of this, there were some people who like didn't like some of the things that this male main character said and did, and I was like, I actually kind of like them because it shows that he's a real person and he doesn't say the right thing a lot of the time. Sometimes he says stuff that's really annoying because that's how real men are, and women too. I just really appreciated the romance of this book. Now, the main thing that I really didn't like was that the main characters were 80 when they found each other and picked up this romance again. And I was like, does it have to be so late in life? I mean, I'm not saying that 80-year-olds can't find love or shouldn't or whatever. I'm just saying like they fell in love when they were young and then they spent so many years apart and they only managed to get together again at 80 and they didn't have like any happiness in between. I mean, they did. They had lives and it wasn't that bad, but it was just like, couldn't we at least have done like 60? Does it have to be that late? But otherwise, I did really enjoy the book. I hope I didn't spoil it too much. I feel like it's it's pretty predictable. I mean, a lot of romances are kind of predictable, so I don't feel like I'm really spoiling anything, but sorry if I did. Next up, we have The Book of Lost Names by Kristin Harmel. This is historical fiction following a young woman who becomes a forger of documents during World War II. She lives in France and she goes to this small town. She has to forge documents for herself and her mother because they're Jewish, but then she manages to get into this forgery ring business kind of deal, where she forges documents for children to escape into Switzerland. I really liked the writing style of this book. That's probably my favorite thing about it. I loved the writing. I liked the characters. I liked the pacing. I thought the plot was interesting. I liked the forgery stuff. That was interesting to learn about. I will say, and this is totally just a personal thing, I am just done with World War II books. I feel like I've read so many of them. It hasn't even been that many, but honestly, I just want to read about other time periods. That is not the fault of the author or the book or anything. But that was one sort of just issue I had with it. My main issue, really my only true issue, because I did really like the book, this is the only thing I didn't like about it, is I hated the ending. And I am not going to spoil it. Don't worry. If you haven't read it, I will not tell you what happens. But I hated it. I really did not like it. That being said, it didn't ruin the book for me by any means. I really liked the book. I stand by that. I think that lots of people love it. And also, again, I think the ending, the fact that I didn't like it, totally personal preference. I think some people probably love it. Probably most people really loved the ending. But for me, gagged me. Couldn't stand the ending. But the rest of the book was great. And the last book I read in January was called The Explosive Child. This is a parenting book. I know it doesn't apply to everyone, so I'll make it quick, but I felt very seen by this book. If you have a child or you care for a child that is explosive, I think this is a fantastic read. And I'm still sort of like trying to put things in practice from the book. I would say that nothing in this book is like total rocket science. It is stuff that I have read before, the strategies in it, and the strategies that I've implemented in a way before, and when I have implemented them, they have worked well. But I really like that this book is very clear about outlining exactly how to do this process of basically problem solving with your child. I don't have tons of experience to recommend the strategies yet, but so far it's been helping. So I really appreciated this book. So that's it for the books I read in January. I'm really hoping that February will be a stronger reading month. I hope I get more books read and hopefully feel much more passionately in love with the books that I've read in the month of February. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you with another one soon. Bye!